So we have on our agenda, so hello to the meeting, Foundation Infrastructure Working Group meeting at on 19th of October. So we have some topics on our agenda. First one is reviewing PRs. Let's check the dashboard. First one here in the inbox is the PCAP integration into Bosch. We actually discussed this one last week. There are some discussions going on.
Yeah, I think we now have a review.
Yeah, it's in review state, pending review discussion.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I asked Brian and Kenneth to review. I mean, they were assigned, but I pinged them. And I think Brian has now done a review.
Yeah, Brian gave a nice review. Yeah, there are some good points here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially the partial proxy findings. I think those are valuable.
Okay, this is ongoing.
So it's basically waiting for changes, right, at this stage?
Correct. The first review has been done. Yeah, another review, but before another review. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that Kenneth will, in the meantime, also review, but still, there's already something issues found.
Looks like I don't know, there was a commit at the bottom. I'm guessing he added the docs that we mentioned down below. So I'll take a look at this later and merge it, assuming it's good.
Yeah.
It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, okay, I think the comments from Roman also have been addressed. Okay. This one. Complete.
Yeah, Aaron left a review.
Okay, this is also waiting for changes. And some people seem to be excited here.
You bet.
Yeah. Great. Okay, let's jump into the issues section. We
did it.
Everything is set. The dashboard is broken.
Oh
no. Now, October 18th from yesterday. Yeah, okay. This is about how the certificates are generated. It looks like it's not conformed to the specification, which
I guess it's US instead of USA.
the digits, USA 3 digits is excluded.
3 characters. I think he means 3 characters.
Characters, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then we can assign.
It's not a PR, right? So we cannot assign it.
Yeah. So
I mean,
open
unless someone wants to pick it up.
I would be happy to. Would be
But
would be
what's gonna be the
a good
next-
opportunity. Sorry.
We need to decide what the next action is, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a breaking change. Just change it, right? Although you should probably do some investigation into it.
I mean, it would only apply to new certificates. I'm assuming it's not gonna trigger generating new ones.
Right. So as long as nobody's like validating the cert to make sure it's USA, which it's like one of those required fields that nobody cares about. Hopefully.
Is CredUp really creating these 3-letter?
Oh, that's a good question. Is it CredUp or is it Bosch? They said the NATCA, which would not be CredHub, right?
It's the it's
Oh,
variables, right? So that's
Wait.
what CredUp creates.
Config server is never used. Right? Config server there, that's like an
Unless somebody's using it, Ruben. It's a great piece of software. It puts
Yeah,
the
but that-
creds somewhere in a file. I don't know what it does with the creds.
interesting.
And
It's like this should be an issue on the config server.
config server.
No, wait, is this the no? Bosch must be sending these variables to the config server, right? Or not, or not. It's such as hard coded in the config server.
oh man,
But the config server is
It's just an example piece of software to basically be like, this is what CredUp should do.
okay. Yeah.
Or any other thing. Like if you wanted to write a shim for Vault or something, this is the contract.
yeah, but who
Anyway.
created USA? It was always like a 2-letter, 2-character.
Yeah, let's blame that line. I want to see. Get it on this
Yeah,
recording.
but nobody is using that line.
There's an ops file for it. Probably. Nobody should be using that line. Which is a
So
little
he's
bit
using
concerning.
Config server, or is this just what he found? He just found this line. because he
Oh
picked it up
no,
first.
but like I think so the next thing he links, like the Nets client cert generator, that is using USA and that is a new piece of software. That was added last year or something. Nets clients.
that have
That means that all certificates are basically invalid, right?
Oh, it's only the ones generated for Nets, and those do not end up in CredHub. So the last line, I think that's the most. So the last link is
okay.
that's the problematic one.
Too many sources here. Yeah.
Yeah, this should be okay.
This should be fixed.
Yes.
Okay. This is for the internal.
This is the Bosch director, yeah.
Yeah, MTLS.
Mhm.
All right.
Would
I
be an
can
easy
take care of that.
Okay, yeah, that would just be a few PRs, right? To these repositories to get rid of one letter.
I am surprised that this is coming now. Somehow discovered now.
Because a lot of people don't pay attention at all, including us in this case. It's just like copy
Yeah,
paste.
this is like quite a good investigation, right? It is like really thorough. It's like look at all the places where we're generating. I mean, like the fact that they found the Nets search generator. Quite nice.
Yeah.
But also interesting because those certs are like, they're MTLS certs, like, you know, about as secure as you can get. And it just doesn't care. It's like, whatever. there's a country there, sure.
Maybe
Yeah,
you can just
yeah.
search here for you can find it. No, it's not so easy. Okay.
Yeah. No, this is like proper work.
There's
Yeah.
also a thing about the OpenSS the what is using that to check the both certificates. That should also error out, right? No.
Oh, anyway. Okay, but I think we discussed this enough.
Yeah, they're both the same. I looked at it.
Oh, you can fix two at once, Benjamin.
It's also in the Bosch CLI where the USA is.
Fix
Somebody was copying, pasting code around.
Oh, it's the config server again. It's the. Okay.
No, Bosch CLI is Bosch CLI also certificate generator config. But what?
Why
No,
is
this
the
is the
CLI
vendor. No, it's the same from config server vendor to Bosch CLI.
Bosch CLI use config server code to generate vendors config server code to generate certs.
What's the thinking? Yeah, I don't know.
All
That's
this new
not-
information.
Not thrilled about what I'm learning today.
Looks like wow. So this is a different place. So do you want Benjamin to look into this also?
Yes, I can handle both.
There,
Or we split it up
But
among 3 people and see if they all end up at the same solution. One for each repo.
yeah.
Okay, so but then we also need to once we fix the config server, we need to vendor for the Bosch CLI. We need to vendor again. Is it already doing that automatically within the pipelines, or
There's a weekly bump dependencies, yeah. I think it happens over the weekend probably, but it can also just be done manually via PR. Although, depending on when you make the PR, it might then just become invalidated. It's like the changes are already there.
we'll just do the automated?
Okay, the next one, bubble up fails with error while setting a Bosch director. This one, I think, Joseph, you've been discussing. Okay, it's waiting for input.
Yeah, it really sounds like the firewall, like I mentioned last week.
Okay, when deploying Bosch on this sphere, this is 16th of October. So it's the same. Now I move it to the discussions.
Yeah, and this one's still ongoing. I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't tell what was in that screenshot.
Why?
Some things were highlighted though. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he pointed out the 2 stem cells. I don't know what he's trying to do with that, but or security. Oh no, security group.
Yeah, it does mean that the stem cells, those, yeah, were created by the creative at least. So makes it feel more like something's wrong in the cloud config, but it would have to be different than what he did for the creative. I don't know. Seems weird.
Yeah, let's wait for the response. And we already looked into this. The rest is old. So let's go to the next points. In the agenda, James stem cell RSysWap being installed from PPA.
Yeah, I found this in the Bosch Linux Stem Cell Builder. We use this PPA to install our syslog because back in 2017 or something, there was some memory leak in the one in the Ubuntu repository, and so this one uses the latest one. This is
Still
going to,
necessary, this one?
I would hope not, but like I
Yeah.
didn't do a lot of investigation. But also, if we
know.
change it back, it's going to downgrade our syslog almost certainly, which
Yes, and they don't have the rsyslog. The normal repositories don't have the mjson sparse and the mnormalize. That's why I
That's-
re-added it again, because I deleted this because I wanted this removed as well. And then a whole bunch of tests were starting to fail because of the mjson parse and mnormalize.
So, fun fact about this PPA, it contains exactly one version of our syslog at a time, and all others get removed. So, foreshadowing on the FIPS discussion, where it's like, we should get a list of packages so that people can rebuild it. You can't rebuild it. The one that we built like 3 weeks ago, no longer on this PPA. So, yeah, that'll be fun.
Otherwise, we need to figure out where we can get the mjson parse and the mnormalize from.
Probably, yeah.
RLP was also a thing, but not sure.
Or see what those things are and how necessary they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird that those wouldn't be in the Ubuntu repository. It's all the same code, like, because we were getting the source code for this for OSM purposes, and like all of those packages use the exact same source code.
Mm-hmm.
There's just plugins that are built off of it.
Yeah, so yeah, I know that in the past, the rsyslog is like really a bitch sometimes to work with. How we implemented it. So yeah.
So sounds like we should open an issue to look into this. So
I would, yeah, I would propose an issue, but also like probably just tag it with the like put it on our wish list or like the milestone for the next stem cell, because that would be the time to revisit this.
Yes.
Right, we have a wish list that we're keeping for things that we want to get rid of, but potentially are breaking.
But it will also be a problem if we want jammy FIPS,
yeah.
or unless we come up with a different way of building it.
Yes.
So we should tag it with wish list and FIPS then.
Yeah, I'll add it to I'll create an issue for the wish list. And then we'll maybe have to solve it before then anyway.
What's the problem again? The packages are no more available on that PPA?
Yeah, that PPA only has the sort of, it has a lot of like different lines of rsyslog supported, which is, I think, one of the reasons we were using it. But each of those lines only has the latest version, and they just delete the older ones. So you cannot get a version from 3 weeks ago from that PPA anymore, which our FIPS plan was, since we can't publish the stem cells, it's more like, oh, this is Jammy X, and these are the packages, and we changed the stem cell builder to be able to rebuild that stem cell from that package list. And like, that just won't work with these rsyslog packages from that PPA, at least.
I see.
Also, it's kind of weird that we're just like, let's use this random PPA for our syslog, and everything else comes from Ubuntu. That's why I first added it in here. The FIPS issue didn't come to my mind until I tried getting packages from it.
It's not a random PPA. So like, if you look up, like that's basically
it's from the maintainers.
I remember looking at it at the time. mnormalize or on other plugin was being added to the stem cell, and I remember using this PPA was the most reasonable way to do it. The most reasonable way to get these modules. But there might be some other way. I don't know.
You're building it from source, but yeah, that makes a bit more complicated. But
Mm.
because we also need to we need to keep track of releases and which versions we are going to use, etc.
Do it the same way we do the blob CLIs. Just like have something that auto bumps the source URL into the stem cell builder so that it's static,
Yeah,
but
that's
a new thing. But it's not a great pattern, but it does work.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
so the problem is breaking changes, right? Like the whole point with like LTS versions of Canonical is that certain you get security fixes, but there's not going to be allegedly breaking changes. And
Yeah, and what you
because
could also do is like if you want to keep the rsyslog but don't want to just get those packages that are not in the standard Ubuntu, then you can basically, I think you can put it on an ignore list, like this packages cannot get from that PPA. But yeah, that's something we should investigate. It's again not a nice pattern because then you have absolutely no idea what's happening, and you need to keep track of, okay, what is the ignore list, etc.
Okay.
So the first
Yeah,
thing
for
would be
this
like
thing.
check what it's for, those two packages.
We have a decision here. The next point is about the FIPS update about FIPS, the FIPS situation. So there is RFC for the FIPS support in the community. Let me open it. Yeah, please check it and provide feedback.
Yeah, it seems I read it yesterday. Can't find anything that I would like to say, well, that's weird.
Seems good.
Yeah. It's pretty general so yeah.
So we got the question at the during the TUC meeting whether we want to put some timelines for at least for the foundation infrastructure working group efforts here. I don't know. How do you feel about this? There's some generic timelines. It's tough.
Well, the SAP wants to have like this FIP stem cell at the end of this year, at least, at the most shortest time.
but I mean, like, I think VMware would also like that, but there's a bit of a blocker or a dependency on Canonical actually giving us the packages.
Yes, they haven't released it yet.
So,
Can we simulate a FIP stem cell?
I mean, we can do
Yeah.
everything. Like we can do the same we did with the Jammy stem cell, right? So we have our pipelines ready. We start building it as if it was there, and then at the last moment we start getting the actual packages. So
Yeah.
I think most of the pipeline work can already start. The work on the stem cell builder can start. We just don't know the exact package names and the. I mean, we can even have the token and everything in there.
Yeah. So the
Does
only
it
thing would
make
be like
sense?
a stage where we need to put in the actual packages once they're released. That's the only thing we really need to do before we do everything, of course.
But setting up buckets and making sure, like all the stuff that is on us, we could start.
Yes.
Does it make sense to experiment with Focal? So to start building Focal FIPS and then check.
I don't know. So like my hope was to have an so really build a variant, right? So basically have it incorporated into the Jammy stem cell so that you keep the same versions as the Jammy stem cell, but then just have a different output target. But the same version, but maybe with a different, I don't know, suffix. We need to figure out like a version scheme, I guess. But maybe it's gonna be the version dash FIPS or something. But like by keeping it in the same pipeline, we know that all the other packages are gonna be the same, right? So we're gonna build it from the same base OS image and stuff. So I think that would be easiest from a debugging perspective if everything else stays the same, and we just have the diff of some crypto packages being swapped out. That to me feels like a variant. Otherwise, it's going to be a separate line that happens to also be using Jammy.
Yeah,
reasonable.
I think it would be nice if we just used the same Jammy. So basically it always goes in 2 steps. So the base build will then be the same base build for Jammy and FIPS.
Mhm.
And then from there on, we basically check which stages needs to be run for which version or which line. How do you call it? Yeah, which IaaS. So you have the IaaS AWS first for FIPS and AWS, and then maybe GCP. And from there on, we build later on for Ali, Azure, etc.
Yeah.
The most work is going to be in the CI anyway, so.
But this can start before we have the bits from Canonical.
Yeah, that work can start now, basically.
Yeah, I'm already doing some preliminary work anyways before this. So I was already templating the CI.
Reproducible build stuff's also very difficult, but I guess we can solve that later. Like this is just get the test stem cells built and then figure out how vendors are actually going to successfully rebuild them later.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other option was that we had one bucket, so we had each release for a bucket, right? And that Canonical only has like access to that bucket. And that
but I mean, like
Canonical
that's
basically
we don't know.
out these things.
We don't know if that's a possibility, right? Like,
No,
that
I
needs
know,
to be
but that
discussed with
is
them.
a thing you could do.
It sounds like a much easier thing than
Yes,
reproducible
is.
building.
Definitely is.
It is. So I hope for that, but we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Like we should, like that would be like really, I don't know, save us a lot of time and effort, but it is really uncertain if we're gonna be able to get that like.
With all supply chain security discussions, will be.
Yeah.
Reproducible stem cell builds would be a great thing to have. It's not something that's very fun to build, probably.
Well,
So
yeah, the only thing I thought of was like the quickest thing that I could think of is that like we have an ability to install if a list with version is available, then the apt installer that we now use is basically then okay, if this file exists, then we use X version or whatever. Maybe write a helper script for it. I don't know. That would be the easiest way.
Yeah. You get the whole Chroot barrier though, and like some of those apt installs are like apt install like these 30 packages. So then you have to break those up into individual calls so that we can in that helper script be like, oh, this one's got a version. Let me do this one, this version, or maybe rewrite that string before you send it to the helper. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we already
it's messy.
Yeah.
What I've also seen people do is put your create some sort of container, Docker container where you snapshot all the packages. So you basically use that as like a mirror. So you would like basically have all the versions that would be installed in there. And then during the stem cell builds, you would, but I mean, like that would be probably a bit problematic with VIPs still, because then you get proprietary code in an image that you would be relying on, so that like it's not gonna work for everything. That's also not as clean.
No, it's going to cause a lot of other problems, because basically you're then creating another repo, an apt repository.
Yeah,
We already have, like, we already keep track of, we already have a list of which packages installed and which versions are installed. We already provide that in each stem cell. So,
Somehow using apt to solve this problem does seem very elegant. Like an apt repository that you could like take everything in the stem cell and like tag it in that apt repository, and then you add that as a line to a new builder, and it would just like pull from that apt repository, and all the versions are going to be exact. But given my experience with apt the last 2 days, I have no interest in dealing with apt. Also, then you still have, you know, those FIPS packages there, which is probably not allowed.
yeah.
Okay, there is some interesting work in front of us.
Yeah, the
if you-
reproducible builds are basically the last step of this, right? It's basically
And the easiest.
it's also the step that's not blocked by anything, right? It's the,
Yeah.
the work that we could start at any time.
Yeah.
But we like it even feels like we might want to start a discussion about this, maybe in the Bosch director thing, repo,
Sounds-
where because it is like it's unclear which direction we want to go.
And we had a lot of context, interesting context now in the discussion. Yeah. Who wants to start the discussion?
I can start it.
Okay.
All right, wait, does it make sense to wait for the RFC to be approved?
Approved.
Yeah, because it's also being discussed in theory there, not like in as much detail, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
So wait
we
for the
can-
RFC to get approved, and then we can start the reproducible builds discussion.
And there is a Slack channel if you want to join that one about FIPS discussion. Yeah, feel free. It's an open channel. And there is a section, last item here is this one. I was editing now the link to the Zoom call. And was wondering what is this?
No, that's where we review blocked items.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We
Feel free to get rid of it. I don't know.
We didn't have any blocked items until now.
Can we add a blocker to the review blocked items?
Yeah.
Okay, now future topics. Yeah.
But isn't that what we use the next meeting thing for?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I like to delete stuff.
No,
Is
but
there
now the whole
anything-
document, like I always like skip the first 10 lines, and now like you have changed the number of lines that I need to skip. I need to fully recalibrate. I had like this perfect blind spot in the top of the document in my VS.
Okay, we understand it. Take a week off so you can get adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else?
No?
And we are done.
I was a bit late. Did I miss a lot?
Yes.
Nah, okay.
Yes, but luckily it's recorded, so you can watch it back.
Oh,
And we
nice.
are assigned
for-
you to the items.
Those first 5 minutes are great. Don't miss any of those.
Okay, guys, see you later.
Thanks, everybody.
See you. Bye bye.